Hey y'all, welcome back. It's me, Mama King, to another reading of The Great Cosmic Mother. Okay, I'm going to read pages 88. I think I'm going to do two. It's very short. 88 through 95. The first settled villages. The Neolithic Revolution, occurring circa 10,000 BC, was the creation of women. Through the long generations of human evolution, it was the females who had dug the earth for food, gathering roots and grasses, wild grains and berries to be used for nourishment, medicine, and clothing fibers. Women were the skilled observers of plant nature, passing on from generation to generation their knowledge of food, medical, toxic, and mind-changing properties of the wild plants, fungi, and herbs in their environment. And it was women who had a special relation to the earth, as daughters related to the body of the Great Mother. Where groups of women and their children settled, culture took root, growing slowly into Neolithic villages. During the Paleolithic or Old Stone Age, the centers of the cave culture that we know of were in Eastern and Southern Europe as the last glaciers receded and human migration increased. Centers of human culture shifted to the moist and fertile valleys of the Near East, where the first systematic cultivation of grain occurred. Wild wheat and emmer grew there. Water conditions were good, and there were wild goats to be domesticated. By 7000 BC, agriculture was well established in Jordan, Iran, and Anatolia, modern Turkey. These new Stone Age people were matriarchal and goddess worshippers. They entered Anatolia and the Near East via Thrace, the Balkans. There were three centers of settled agriculture in the Near East. On the western slopes and valleys of the Zagros Mountains, where the Tigris empties into the Persian Gulf, and the hill country of Turkish, Syrian Mesopotamia, and on the South Anatolian Plain, New Western Turkey. Some of the oldest known settlements and the oldest known grain sickle have been found in the area of Palestine. These are the remains of the Natufian Neolithic culture, which lasted until circa 6000 BC. The people of the most ancient city of Tel Es Sultan, now Jericho, practiced a cult of skulls and buried their dead in deep pits under the floors of their houses. The first layer of this city dates from 8000 to 7000 BC and was built in the shape of the crescent moon. At its earliest levels, the culture seems very advanced. The houses were built in beehive shape, constructed with sun-dried clay bricks. Floors were sunk into the earth, strewn with sand and covered with clay. Timber was also used in construction. Remains of a wooden staircase have been found. The city is surrounded by an 18-foot-high wall of regularly shaped stones, and this is surrounded by a protecting ditch or moat 27 feet wide, cut 9 feet deep into the solid rock. Architecture and building techniques at Tel Es Sultan are at least as advanced as those of medieval European fortresses. The strange thing is that no tools for cutting such huge stone blocks, no axes, picks, chisels have been found. In the rooms of all the houses were found images of the goddess. The next oldest settlement in the area dates from 6500 BC. There, people built triangular houses with rooms more than 21 feet long and 12 feet wide, around a courtyard with a central hearth. The bricks were given a plaster coating, and there are no corners or broken lines in this architecture. The walls are gently curved, molded by hand, as the Pueblo houses of the American Southwest are still hand adobeed today by the women. The walls were painted red or yellow and were highly burnished. These houses had drains. Spindle whorls and loom weights were found in the ruins, but no traces of pottery. The women used stone vessels. A chapel has been found containing a stone menhir, a carved stone pillar with oval point and breasts, representing the great goddess. The best known of these Anatolian cities is Katal Huyuk, excavated by James Millart in the 1960s. This complex town, a ceremonial center for the goddess religion, flowered between 6500 and 5650 BC. Katal Huyuk was very large for its day, 30 to 35 acres in extent. 12 successful layers have been excavated, and no signs of warfare or weaponry have been found. There are also no signs of animal slaughter within the town, though there are murals depicting the old ritual of the hunt. The people were peaceful agriculturalists, mostly vegetarian. Katal Huyuk was situated near the Obsidian trade routes and was a major trading center for grains and probably also religious icons. Women's skills as gardeners and agriculturalists are manifest here. The presence of numerous querns, mortars, pounders, grinders, storage pits, and sickle blades shows a growing abundance of food. And burial sites containing luxury objects indicate a surplus of goods and therefore trade. There are many obsidian objects and cowrie shells, goddess symbols from coastal regions. At Katal Huyuk, the most honored burials were of women and children. Before burial, bodies were exposed so their bones could be picked clean by vultures, the sacred bird of the death goddess. Women and children were buried in central graves directly under the sleeping platforms inside the houses, with signs of ritual respect and love, amulets and icons, obsidian mirrors and toys buried with them. Men were buried in smaller corner sites, never with children, and with their Stone Age hunt weapons. The whole town seems to have been dedicated to the Great Mother religion and to religious artistry. At least 40 shrines have been found in Katal Huyuk, all of the goddess. Murals on temple walls show shamanism women as vultures. Women's breasts were molded in relief on shrine walls, surmounted by cow horns and surrounded by imprints of human hands, the same handprints found throughout the Paleolithic caves. Here the great goddess is shown in mural images and statues in her triple aspect, as a young woman, a mother giving birth, and an old woman or crone accompanied by a vulture. These are the three phases of the moon: waxing, full, and waning. Katal Huyuk also was built over a sacred well, and the site designed in coordination with natural and cosmic laws. the lines and centers of the earth's energies, and the positions of the stars. To build at a place was to share the life of that place. It was an organic and spiritual location. Earliest agriculture must have grown up around the shrines of the Great Mother, which were social and trade centers as well as holy places. The priestesses of the goddess were also administrators, scribes, and traders. The goddess of the Neolithic became the teacher of planting, harvesting, and storage methods, as well as healer and dispenser of curative herbs, roots, and plants. Erich Fromm, in The Anatomy of Human Destructiveness, speculates on the meaning of this culture, the fact that among hundreds of skeletons covering at least 800 years of continuous culture, not one shows signs of violent death. The fact that women seemed to outnumber men and are buried with greater honor. The fact that the religion of Katal Hayuk, administered by priestesses, stressed the renewing and protecting powers of the Great Mother. He writes, "The data that speak in favor of the view that Neolithic society was relatively egalitarian without hierarchy, exploitation, or marked aggression are suggestive. The fact, however, that these Neolithic villages in Anatolia had a matriarchal, matricentric structure adds a great deal more evidence to the hypothesis that Neolithic society, at least in Anatolia, was an essentially unaggressive and peaceful society. The reason for this lies in the spirit of affirmation of life and lack of destructiveness, which J.J. Backelfen believed was an essential trait of all matriarchal societies." I'm so honored to be able to read this, okay? Just to let you know, okay? So we'll continue here with the last part, Southeast Europe, the bird and snake goddess. Okay, my voice should sound a little better now. I don't know, the S's, okay? But I took a little break and got some water. So here we go, Southeast Europe, the bird and snake goddess. The goddess religion was carried into the Near East by descendants of the European Old Stone Age. They entered Anatolia via the Bosporus and the Dardanelles Straits, bearing with them countless generations of cultural, social, and spiritual development centered on the worship of the Great Mother. The Balkan region of Southeast Europe, known in the original world as Thrace, was one of the sites of this development. It was previously assumed that agriculture and Neolithic culture generally originated in the Near East and spread from there to Europe in the 4th millennium BC. It has now been shown that the movement could have been in the other direction. An independent Neolithic culture existed in the Southeast Europe circa 7000 through 3500 BC. This matriarchal culture was similar to those in Anatolian, Near Eastern, and Egyptian regions, but did not derive from them. It is likely that all were seeds dropped on the way of the outward migrations of Paleolithic cave people following the recession of the Ice Age. The Southeast Europeans lived in small townships with laid-out streets. They farmed, domesticated animals, developed poetry, and used sophisticated bone and stone carving techniques. Located on 5 seas, the Adriatic, the Ionian, the Aegean, the Marmara, M-A-R-M-A-R-A, and the Black Sea. These people traded at great distances on seas and inland waterways, transporting many items, including native obsidian, alabaster, and marble. They might have traded obsidian to Çatalhöyük as early as 7000 BC. The Vinca culture near present Belgrade in Yugoslavia flourished circa 5300 to 4000 BC. These people built large settlements of 2 and 3 room houses. 2,000 figurines of the goddess have been found in the excavations, and the first attempts at linear writing appeared there, not later than mid-6th millennium BC, on spindle whorls, figurines, and vessels, all related to women and the goddess. The bird and snake goddess reigned supreme. As agriculturalist Marija Gimbutas notes, she was a combined snake and water bird with a long phallic neck, descended from the Magdalenian goddess of the European Old Stone Age, and she was the feminine principle. In the Vinca, houses were sacred corners with domed altars. The altar pieces in the shape of the bird goddess with upraised arms. She wore a bird-beaked wooden mask, the receptacle of the invisible forces. While some of her mysteries were enacted in natural caves, miniature replicas of temples have been found, showing whole buildings made fantastically in the shape of the bird goddess. The Vinca and surrounding Southeast European cultures were largely destroyed by invaders from the east. These were semi-nomadic pastoralist Aryan ancestors of the Indo-Europeans who distributed or disturbed most of Central and Eastern Europe during the 4th millennium BC. In their aggressive infiltration and settlement, these invaders destroyed a good deal of the goddess culture and incorporated what they could not destroy. They also interbred, producing the mixed Gauls, Celts, and the Teutons, and other later invaders of Western Europe. Only around the Aegean did the earlier matriarchal European Neolithic culture survive unbroken until the end of the 3rd millennium BC, and on Crete in the form of Minoan culture, Minoan, until the mid-2nd millennium BC. Thrace remained a major center, radiating ancient knowledge down to Pythagorean times. Pythgorean. Y'all know what I'm talking about. In the first sex, Elizabeth Gould Davis notes that the classical Greeks found evidence there of an ancient technology far beyond their own. Herodotus wrote, "The Thracians dwell amid lofty mountains, clothed with forest and capped by snow. Their oracle is situated up on their highest mountaintop, and their prophet is a woman." According to Epiphilus, Apuleius, Thrace was the original home of witchcraft, woman wisdom. It was also the home of the 9 muses called mountain goddesses. By Herodotus. Thus, the legendary home of magic poetry, the wild and mysterious Maenads. And it was also the homeland of one of the original Amazon tribes, warrior women who later fought in Greece against the patriarchal armies. Davis speculates that Thrace was the germinating center for all the later civilizations of Sumer, Crete, Egypt, This may or may not be so. At least there was a strong link between original European goddess cultures and the matriarchal centers of the Neolithic Natufunians, Çatalhöyük, Hakalar, and other Anatolian and Near Eastern sites. In Thrace, the goddess was worshipped as the moon, Diana and Selene, and the 9 muses, or mountain goddesses, were her 9 magical aspects. The Maenads were her oracular priestess shamans, custodians of her primal wisdom, and legendary teachers of the later Celtic druids, who worshipped Serduin. Interesting. Mountain goddess of inspiration. Orpheus, the mythic poet shaman, came from Thrace. Davis thinks he was murdered by the Maenads for revealing their ritual secrets. Thracian Maenad teaching on the immorality of the soul, immortality, not the immorality, immortality, that's a lack of death, lack of ending, on the immortality of the soul, and the theory of reincarnation influence Pythagoras, yeah, I said it, Pythagoras, as late as the 5th century BC. So some years back, there was an exhibition on the Thracian treasures at the British Museum in London. The catalog describes a rich culture in Thrace between 6000 and 4000 BC. This culture belonged to an unknown and mysterious people. Scholars cannot explain it. Walls were made with lath and plaster. Local pottery, gracefully made from its very beginnings, was often brightly colored and richly ornamented. In Thrace, as in Asia Minor, it is images of the mother goddess which predominate in the idols made of clay and bone. About 2800 BC, far-reaching changes took place throughout the Bronze Age, changes which contributed to the disappearance of all graces of this culture and were strongly connected with centralized rule. What is never spelled out in that centralized rule was introduced with patriarchy. Culture declined for hundreds of years, etc., during which the ancient magical science was destroyed and forgotten, and patriarchal rapine ruled. Everywhere in the exhibit where images of the goddess appeared, and there were plenty dated from 4000 BC and earlier. She is called an idol, or a fertility figurine. There was a pottery model of a circular shrine enclosing 3 huge images of the goddess with arms upraised. There were many goblets and vases decorated with heads of warrior women. Yet the catalog does not once speculate on the meaning of these objects. Instead, one is given plenty of information about patriarchal Thrace in later times. Men had many wives. The women did all the work, both at home and in the fields. The men considered it shameful to till the land, and their noblest occupation was to go to war and to be tattooed. So is her story taken. So is her story taken from us by male archaeologists and historians posing as objective researchers. Thank you for joining me for this session. I hope to see y'all soon. I appreciate your subscriptions, likes, and comments. Keep them coming. Bye-bye.